Hello and welcome to the Scientology Money Project on YouTube. We're part of the extended SPTV network. And we have a sad story today. Hey, I'm having a little bit of sound problems. Put a 5x5 if you can hear me in comments. Patrick, are we on? Do we have sound? I was having some problems. Let me check. Yeah, we showed that we're good. So, okay. Good. Anyway, welcome everyone to the show. Thank you. Wayne's World. I'm going to just change my volume for a minute. It's a little bit glitchy. Okay, that's much better. Thank you. Oh, good. Let's welcome. Hi, Vanessa. Good to see you. Look, I haven't talked to you for a while. Let's talk. And Wise Mama here is Happy Friday. Denise, welcome. Yeah, this story of the death of Whitney Mills and the subsequent lawsuit by her estate has gone viral. And it's another damning indictment of Scientology's culture of death, suicides, people who died before their time, and Scientology's cover-ups, things like that. Welcome, Joe. Wayne's World. Always good to, yeah, it is a sad reason. But I wanted to go over it and thank you. Thank you, New York, NYC. Hi, Lupe. Glad you're here. Hello, Pam. Glad you're here. So I wanted to bring my perspective to it because I've been following this story. And as you know, my wife lost her only son, and we've lost other people. The community, Johnny Lewis, took his life. And it's often young people who are crying out for help. And Scientology won't offer help. Or, of course, they famously deny the appropriate and right type of psychiatric or psychological help that a person really needs. And there are parallels, of course, being drawn between the death of Whitney Mills and Lisa McPherson. So I want to cover some things that are in the media. Let's start out basically, we're going to just start out with a lawsuit, and the complaint is here. Now, this is in Pinellas County, Florida, where Flag Land Base is. And I'm going to post the complaint on my on the Scientology Money Project so you can read it. Leila Mills is representative of the Estate of Whitney Mills. And the named defendants are Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization, Church of Scientology Flagship, that's where OT8 is delivered, Church of Scientology of Tampa, Church of Scientology Mission of Bel Air. That one belongs is Kathy Feshbach, I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe that Kathy runs that. And Church of Scientology International, which is the mother church. It's an administrative church that draws its license from RTC and in turn sublicenses all churches of Scientology and secular social betterment groups. The International Scientologist Administrations, I'm really glad that the IASA is finally named in a lawsuit, and I'll tell you why. Let's talk about the IAS. Now, the IAS is the membership organization of Scientology. So there's the Church of Scientology, but you can't do services in the Church of Scientology or any Church of Scientology. In fact, let me go back one step. The Church of Scientology is just a term of convenience used to refer to all the churches of Scientology in the ecclesiastical hierarchy. That's what Scientology told the IRS in its 1023 application. What's important to realize is that Church of Scientology International, you can't pay them anything. You can't do anything with them. They don't deliver services. They sublicense the orgs, okay? To do Scientology, you have to join the IAS, the International Association of Scientologists. And I'm finally glad that this lawsuit is naming its operating arm IASA. Let me explain. The International Association of Scientologists is the membership group to which you have to belong, but it's an unincorporated membership association. This gets to be important in this lawsuit, and I think all future lawsuits should name the IASA. An unincorporated membership association is if a lot of us liked Porsches and we could afford them. And so we met on Saturdays with our Porsches at the local, a local hamburger joint. And then we would go out on road rallies on our Porsches or Harleys, whatever. I'm just saying that we don't have any legal standing. We're not incorporated. We're just friends who hang around. So we don't have a bank account. In order to formalize our, say, Porsche of America, we would need an operating arm that has legal standing to transact business, collect monies, and do everything on our behalf. So the International Association of Scientologist Administrations, the IASA, is the legal operating arm of the membership organization. So like I said, to do Scientology, you have to join the IAS. That's where they give out the statuses and the bowling trophies. And then once you're in IAS, you have to be in good standing with the Church of Scientology. So as an IAS member, you go into a Scientology church, and there you'll meet a Sea Org member. And because the IAS needs an operating arm to do anything, it's staffed by Sea Org members. I've argued that the Sea Org, it doesn't legally exist. I've shown that clearly. And so it has an operating arm called the Church of Scientology. And that's my argument. Anyway, the lawsuit finally names the actual important IASA, because that is the group. Scientologists don't belong to the Church of Scientology. They can't. The Church of Scientology has no members. And the IASA, the IAS is what everyone belongs to, and it's operated by the IASA. I give high praise to this case because they've named the correct membership organization operating arm, the IASA. I'm glad to see this. I think all lawsuits should name the IASA because IAS members have to sign those contracts with the church, but they do so as IAS members because any Scientologist has no standing in the Church of Scientology. They're IAS members. This is so important. So this lawsuit is a complaint for wrongful death, and it is 46 pages, and it gives quite a few details. And again, footnote 1, I'm glad to see this lawsuit, footnote number 1, saying Scientology and Church of Scientology are umbrella terms. And so these are important. It's used to refer to the entire universe of entities affiliated with defendants. So this legal complaint gets so many things right. It's something I'm glad to see because it does name the IASA. It does tell the court how the church is designed. And I've long argued that you have to understand the design, the legal design of the church in order to sue it properly. And I'm glad to see this. So basically, it's an estate and it's all the churches because every part of Scientology is legally separate from everything else. So this names all the orgs to which the late Whitney Mills belonged. So this is really well laid out, okay? And a little bit about Whitney. You know, she was very troubled, like Lisa McPherson. She was 40 years old when she unalived herself. And it was preventable. It was absolutely preventable. But I'm going to show you how. Oh, hi, Fat Grammy. Good to see you here. Good to see you here, Fat Grammy. And what a membership organization. Yeah, you don't get any say in policy. The IAS has absolutely no legal reference to the Church of Scientology or IASA. They're legally separate corporations. So Scientologists, first and foremost, I'll repeat this, Scientologists are members of the International Association of Scientologists. If you take away one thing from this video, take that away. Scientologists are members of the International Association of Scientologists. They do not and cannot belong to the Church of Scientology or any Church of Scientology. It's two different things, and that's legally very important. The Church of Scientology, any Church of Scientology, has no members. They have, the CSI has trustees and boards of directors, but it can have no members. So this membership group thing needs to be exposed and talked about more, because that's how it's really built. You belong to a membership organization. You have no say, so no vote. And they have an operating arm staffed by Sea Org members who are controlled by David Miscavige. So even the membership organization is controlled via the Sea Org by David Miscavige as the highest ranking member of the Sea Org. So let's go back to this. These legal details are important, and I have them posted on my blog, and I'm going to show you why I've spent so much time compiling, information for you. But basically, this goes through the mistreatment that resulted in the wrongful death of Whitney Mills. And it's a very good document. We're not going to go through it in detail. I may refer to it, but this is a very good going through the allegations. And what's tragic, point 13, this action arises out of the tragic death of Whitney Mills, a 40-year-old Clearwater resident who took her own life. On May 12, 2022, Mills attempted to set herself on fire before inflicting herself with a gunshot wound. That is just shocking. It's just shocking. And like I said, there were so many warning signs and red flags. And it says, this is what I like, point 14. Mills was a high-ranking member of Scientology, having paid IASA and other Scientology defendants hundreds of thousands of dollars to attain her status. There's a typo there. The Scientology defendants brainwashed her into believing that mental health professionals, including psychologists and psychiatrists, and related medical treatments such as antidepressants and other prescription drugs were unnecessary and abhorrent. Upon learning of her problems, the Scientology defendants took control of Mills' medical care, thus foreclosing her from obtaining the exact treatment she needed and sending her to an alternative doctor, an alternative medicine doctor who misdiagnosed her with cancer and Lyme disease and extorted her for a series of alternative treatments of little or no utility. And of course, that's Dr. David Minkoff, the father of Rebecca Minkoff, the purse designer. She didn't have insurance for these alternative treatments. So that was something like $20,000. So basically, as Aaron mentioned this morning, Dr. David Minkoff was not allowed to properly diagnose. And I think it's worse than that. I think that he's not allowed to diagnose. I don't think he wants to diagnose. I think that his intellectual capacity to perform medicine should be called into question professionally before a professional board, given what he's done here. And I'm surprised he didn't lose his license over Lisa McPherson. So Dr. David Minkoff, I mean, one wonders, it's a fair question to be raised before a jury. Is he even competent to be a doctor given what happened in this case? And for example, he diagnosed Whitney Mills with a cancerous ovarian cyst where none existed at autopsy. So that raises the question, did Dr. Minkoff order a biopsy? If he misdiagnosed her with cancer, that's malpractice. And that would have added to maybe her intense pressure to want to take herself out of this world, sadly, because he was mistreating her. And it gets worse because there were church people involved. And this, I'm going to show you the tangled web. And, feel free to ask questions as we go along. So this bothers me a lot because there's a lot of moving parts here, and I'll try to put it together. So basically, she's an IES member. She goes to a Scientology doctor who misdiagnoses her, tells her she has ovarian cancer, which would be terrifying, and that she has Lyme disease. And she can't get help. And the help she needs will turn out to be fatal in her case. So a lot's been talked about, and I'm going to just go into this. So Whitney Mills, there's a picture of Whitney at Flag, took from the internet. That's been seen. And here she is on the free wins, receiving OT8 in 2019. By this point, she has spent several $100,000 on Scientology to get to OT8. And in fact, Grammy, a lot of this is not on my website, but after the this live stream, I will put up all these documentary materials on my website so you can have them. So no, I haven't put them up yet. I wanted to do the podcast first. Yes, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, if you have a question, put question or Q. So no, I was just saving this, Fat Grammy. Yeah. Now, this is the Tampa Bay Times. I just want to set this up. The Tampa Bay Times quoted that November 18, 1995, of Lisa McPherson. The story is well known. Lisa McPherson was involved in a minor traffic accident in Clearwater. It's a fender bender, really nothing, body damage a little bit, was very minor. But she got out of her car and she stripped naked there on the street, and she said, "I need help. I need to talk to someone." The police rolled up. Obviously, this is a 5150 or a Baker Act. This would be a 72-hour psychiatric lockup. And here in California, it's called a 5150 here. It's called the Baker Act in other states. But basically, it's 72 hours. You're confined to a psychiatric institution so that you do not harm yourself or others. So Lisa McPherson strips naked in an intersection, and she's crying. She's pleading that she needs help. This is triggered by a minor incident, a traffic accident. They take her to Morton Plant Hospital for psychiatric evaluation, but she's signed out because Scientologists showed up. Okay? And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to show you why they showed up. I'm going to show you the legal documentation that I want the entire world to know about. So the church members took her to the Fort Harrison, which is the hotel owned by Scientology. And we call it the Fort Homicide for a reason. Now, supervising Lisa McPherson's medical care was Janice Johnson, who was not licensed to practice medicine in Florida and whose license was restricted in Arizona. So right there, you have medical malpractice. You arguably have the conditions that are leading up to a negligent homicide or a manslaughter. In other states, had this not been Scientology, this should have been manslaughter or negligent homicide, in my opinion. So December 5, 1995, after 17 days, Lisa McPherson is locked up, of course, at the Fort Harrison, and key evidence is destroyed. But the Scientologists caring for Lisa McPherson worry that she has become seriously ill. She had lost a lot of weight. She had cockroach bites. These are all documented on autopsy photos. If you can handle it, you can look at Lisa McPherson's autopsy. You can look at the photos. You can look at the body. But it's a trigger alert, okay? So they take her because she's obviously at this point near death, and they can't do anything. They've been literally using a turkey baster to shove vitamins and orange juice down her throat. They've been feeding her these herbal remedies and supplements. She's lost a lot of weight. She's clearly gone. She's mentally ill. And so they, instead of taking her to the local hospital, they drive past several hospitals so they can go to see Scientologist Dr. David Minkoff, who works in the ER in Newport Richey. McPherson is not breathing, has no heartbeat, and is gaunt, bruised and unkempt. Dr. Minkoff pronounces her dead. There is no local obituary and no public police report of her death. So there was a cover-up. That's where Bob Minton comes into the picture as a famous. The late Bob Minton comes in as a famous former critic. He exposed Lisa McPherson's death. Again, that part, there is no local obituary and no public police report of her death. And of course, when Alexander Jensch died at age 27, my wife's only son, with Heber, nobody called Karen to tell her from the church. I'm always in debt to Aaron Smith Levin. When he was in the church, he had the decency to let Karen know. He texted her on Facebook, and I have the copy of the screenshot. Aaron Smith Levin had the decency and the courage when he was still in the church to tell Karen that her son had died, because nobody from the church had called to bother to tell Karen that Alexander had died. So for me, this is very personal. I feel this pain. Scientology does not want to tell family members that someone has died. Steve Brackett, who was the fiance of Nancy Cartwright at one time, had committed the cardinal sin. He was an OT8. He committed the cardinal sin in Scientology. That is, he went bankrupt and had no more money to give. His construction company was going bankrupt. So he drove up to the Bixby Bridge in Big Sur, California, the famous picturesque, himself off, but he killed himself. And Scientologists were told that he had died in a head-on automobile collision. And so that's what happens. That's what happens. And to stop this screen, that's what happened with with Lisa McPherson. Thankfully, Bob Minton and others, Mark Bunker was involved. The Lisa McPherson, Bob Minton created a group and funded it. So, and then there was a lawsuit by Del Liebrecht, Lisa's aunt, against the church that went on for many years. Marty Rathbun admitted destroying key evidence in that. So let's go back to the slides. So this is a parallel. So we have a mentally ill young woman in distress, and they lock her up in the church and subject her to these horrible remedies. If this is a comparison. Let's dwell on this. It's a right-left. This is worth dwelling on for a few minutes. And this is why some of my podcasts, I get technical, but this is painful. This is very painful. The left-hand side, this is documented in legal documents, police records. This is all factual. Left-hand side, Lisa McPherson, November 18, 1995. Excerpt from flag land-based logs cited in legal records. This is what the Scientology minders who were supposed to be taking care of Lisa McPherson wrote. 2:45 p.m. Lisa is talking since about 30 minutes, and here's what Lisa was saying. Quote, "I created time 3 billion years ago, and now I am dramatizing it since then. I am LRH, and I didn't confront it because I didn't confront that power. I want to dance. I need my auditor. I need to confront my mom," unquote. So Lisa McPherson is thinking she's L. Ron Hubbard and that she created time 3 billion years ago. She needs her auditor. She's clearly hallucinating, and it's worse. And I'm not a medically qualified psychiatric professional to evaluate this, but you don't have to be to see that she's not in her right state of mind. And in fact, she's malnourished, she's dehydrated, she's isolated, she's locked in a room, she can't get help, she can't get medical help. For example, when you're dehydrated, the first thing, an IV, you keep a person hydrated. But there's no doctor on site giving her an IV. She's been taken out of a psychiatric facility at Morton Plant that would have hydrated her, done some checks, evaluated her, and did all the right things. Now, the right-hand side, let's contrast that. Whitney Mills, April 2022. And this was from the lawsuit. These are from evidence collected. Prior to that, on April 2022, Mills sends Lopez, who's one of her Scientology minders, just like Lisa McPherson had minders, sends the following text messages. I feel horrific. I can't take it anymore. It's too brutal. I need relief. I don't understand why I'm not getting any relief in my brain. My brain is so inflamed. I'm so annoyed. I just want this to go away. I just can't take it anymore. It's beyond brutal. I have it the worst. I literally can't take it anymore. This is beyond brutal. I wish I had a time machine. So this is a comparison, and it shows remarkable similarities in this tortured, hellish state of insanity. And again, I don't know the proper diagnosis. I'm not medically qualified, but you can see this distress, this pain, this agony as death approaches. And this is what Whitney Mills went through, and there is evidence. So I just wanted to show you the contrast. And that's why it does seem like Lisa McPherson deja vu all over again. Now, I want to get into something. This is a text that's been out there from Whitney Mills. She says in blue, I wish it wasn't in my brain. It's so annoying that I have it so bad and so bad mentally. The director of processing wants me to come in for an interview. Now, in a Scientology church, the director of processing, the DFP, is in charge of creating a custom auditing program for you if you're in distress. So you can see she's in agony, and the director of processing says, come in for an interview. And that's at Flag Land Base. And her friend replies a DFP. That means that a director of processing interview is good. She says, Whitney says to her friend, I said something really dumb on the phone. Uh-oh, what did you say? She says, Albertina told me there's an assist for someone that is really sick and to drop the body. I asked for that assist. So right there is a clear indication that she wants to take her own life, that she wants to end it. And it's right there. It's right there in the text. She wants an end of life assist. So in Scientology, there is an end of life assist. Church tries to deny it, but we're going to go up and listen to Pat Broker. After L. Ron Hubbard died, Pat Broker said they had it. This is being talked about. So let's go and see Pat Broker in 1986 talk about how LRH had the exact tech of how to drop your body. And this too, I'm going to post this clip on my blog so that I want the entire package in one place. I like to do that on my blog. So
we also, by the way, have the OT level.
Now, can you hear that? Put 5 by 5. I want to make sure. Did you hear what he said? We're going to go back a little bit. Just put 5 by 5 if you can hear it. Okay, let me know if you can hear it because I'm okay. Good, thank you. So this is Pat Broker. Thank you. I needed to know that. Okay.
We also, by the way, have the OT level that is going to be done immediately after every Thetan discards his or her body. He wrote that up before he went. Now, don't take that as an invitation because you don't get it till you're through with the OT level before it. But know that when it's time, the tech is there, so you're not left with what do I do now, or even having to figure it out for yourself. It's there. That will be written up right away, because we have that word for word, and it'll be archived and made safe, and it will be eventually available at FLAG and other AOs, and people will be allowed to come into AOLA before they discard it, read the materials, check out on them, be word cleared, demo, so you know it. Now you know it. Now you're ready for when it happens. He finished his job. There's not much else to say except that what he came to do, he did.
Okay, so there's Pat Broker saying that LRH, before he died, wrote a level on how to drop your body. Pat's saying you would come in while you were terminal or about to die, and you could do it. Yeah, the volume's slightly low, Patrick, but I will post it. So, and I'm sorry for the volume, but basically, Pat Broker said LRH created a rundown to end cycle or end your life, what to do. And they also claim that there was an OT level that you would do after you dropped your body or died. And he said that when you're ready to die, you come into FLAG or another AO, an advanced organization, you do the rundown, you work clear it, then you die. And this follows on the mythology that L. Ron Hubbard had causatively dropped his body. Yeah, the laughing, Julie, the laughing from the audience is way too weird. L. Ron Hubbard has just died. Pat's saying, I talked to L. Ron Hubbard. He told me none of you to mourn or have any grief. And by the way, when you get ready to die, LRH wrote up all the instructions on how to die. And Tori Crispin relates a story in one of her videos where a woman's crying and she's saying, I don't know how to drop my body. I don't know how to drop my body. An older woman. It's a story. I wish Tori would come on and tell. Maybe I'll have her on, or if she could do the video. Tori, if you're listening, you could do it about that story about the woman who was asking you, everyone, how do you drop your body? So I know from many years that it's not anecdotal. In the church, there is how to end cycle. And this text message is exactly it. Whitney said, Albertina told me there's an assist for someone that is really sick and that is really sick and to drop the body. I asked for that assist. Yes, Broker is ghoulishly blasé about this madness. Well, he was allegedly an alcoholic at the time, and we don't know his state of mind, but yeah, he's disappeared. So she's giving a suicidal ideation right there. And what they do is they bring her in to the introspection rundown, which brings us, of course, to a contract. Now, we hear a lot about the arbitration contract. I want to introduce new Scientology watchers and remind older Scientology watchers that there's a contract. I call it the kidnap contract, and this is what they used on Whitney. So there's an agreement in general release regarding spiritual assistance. Basically, it's posted on my blog, and I'll post the link so you have the documents. It's basically in this in this particular contract, that's one of the four you sign. As an IAS member, you sign them before you can do churches as an IAS member, you sign these four contracts before you can do services in the Church of Scientology. Now, the particular field I've highlighted says, quote, under no circumstances at any time do I wish to be denied my right to care from members of my religion, to the exclusion of psychiatric care or psychiatric directed care, regardless of what any psychiatrist, medical person, designated member of the state, or family member may assert supposedly on my behalf. If circumstances should ever arise in which government, medical, or psychiatric officials or personnel or family members or friends attempt to compel or coerce or commit me for psychiatric evaluation, treatment, or hospitalization, I fully desire and fully expect that the Church or Scientologists will intercede on my behalf to oppose such efforts and/or extricate me from that predicament so my spiritual needs may be addressed in accordance with the tenets of the Scientology religion. You go down to the next point, C. As I so strongly disagree as a matter of religious principle with the use of psychiatric treatment for anyone, including myself, I reject the usage of psychiatric labels, and I believe in assisting individuals through religious and spiritual means. Therefore, I am hereby specifying that should I get into a situation in the future, unlikely as it is, where others may think that I need psychiatric treatment of any kind, that I instead desire to receive Scientology spiritual assistance, and that it can include, but is not limited to, the introspection rundown. Further, I realize that in the future, it may consequently be suggested that by a senior Scientology minister, should the need arise, that I receive such spiritual assistance. And again, I want to make it clear that under such circumstances, I desire to receive Scientology spiritual assistance, which may include but not be limited to the Scientology introspection rundown. Now, the introspection rundown is where they lock you in a room, and they will normally pass notes under the door. You're not to be spoken to. Everything's to be in writing, so they'll put a note under the door, and you'll have minders. Here in LA in the 80s, they had a couple babysitting houses, they called them, because they didn't want people who would, sometimes in Scientology processes, after this coercive, destructive processing they do, people can have a psychiatric breakdown. They can have a mental breakdown. And the first thing Scientology wants you to do is they want to isolate you. And in some cases, they did not want you on their property, so they had babysitting houses. There were at least two of them in San Fernando Valley, up on the hill there, Santa Monica Mountains. And they would take people there often for days. And you could be in a room screaming and no one could hear you, and they're going to try to work it out. And in the case of Lisa McPherson, they locked her up at Fort Harrison. So the introspection rundown is meant to get you out of the public view so you can't talk to your family. But the fact that what's shocking is you actually have to sign this contract. So arbitration is talked about a lot. All the contracts call for arbitration, but this particular contract, you agree that you don't want psychiatric help. That's a statement, if in one state of mind you can make, I don't want psychiatric help. But what happens when you actually do need psychiatric help and you've already signed an agreement? Is that binding and enforced when you have a psychiatric breakdown? Because you don't get to take this back. So my prediction is, if Scientology does not settle this case and they try to produce this, you are going to see some real big stuff go on. Because I want to bring this to the attention of the public, that you do sign a kidnap contract. If they deem you or that you've had a mental breakdown, a psychiatric break, and they want to be able to lock you up. Now, if Scientology chooses to fight this lawsuit, they're going to produce the contract. And when that hits, that's going to be a big deal. So I just want to make the public aware that there is a contract. And that's what they were enforcing on Whitney Mills. And then it's a real thing. There is actually a contract. You give up your rights to psychiatric help. And if you do get locked up, you ask members of your church to come and take you out. And with this, by waiving this legal document, they can take you out of psychiatric lockup that you may need to save your life. And that's frightening. As all the contract also says, you reject all psychiatric labels. So they want to override psychiatric professionals. And so that's the contract. And then you sign it, it's witnessed, and that's part of the 4 contracts that you sign going in. And here's some OT8 stuff. You can, see this is the typical OT8 publicity. It's the top of the bridge. Yeah, people just extolling what OT8 is about. But let me count off. OT8 Frank Suarez jumped to his death from a 9th floor condo in Puerto Rico, there in San Juan. Steve Brackett, OT8, jumped to his death from the Big Sur Bridge, Bixby, Ohio. OT8 Kirstie Alley died of colorectal cancer at age 72. And the list goes on, and Whitney Mills at age 40, she was giving every indication. So it was just shocking. I'm glad the family's suing. I wanted to share a few screens with you to show some other information. Scientologists always claim that they can help. I'm going to take you to Citizens Commission on Human Rights is Scientology's front group, which is kind of their most vicious front group. This is their page on X, what we used to call Twitter. And like I tell people, go look at what Scientology puts out there. And this is basically nonstop attacks on psychiatry. Here they're saying that psychiatry is plotting to destroy the lives of veterans. And so what is their alternative? $500,000 in Scientology. So this is their unhinged attack. And Scientology every day will attack psychiatry as its mortal enemy. And that's why Whitney Mills couldn't get the help she needed, because she signed a contract. CCHR makes irresponsible and reckless claims about psychiatry. For example, look at this post here. It says, when a psychiatrist recommends ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, the patient can't give informed consent. Why not? Because psychiatrists don't understand the laws of electricity. That sounds like something Tom Cruise would say. Scientology, which is wholly unqualified to make this statement, wholly unqualified. They're saying that psychiatrists don't understand the laws of electricity. That is stupidity on its face. I mean, I want to spend some time on this. This accusation that psychiatrists don't understand. Well, let's break it down into 2 parts. First, the idea that psychiatrists don't understand the laws of electricity. I, as part of my lighting career, I worked on lighting as it related to endoscopy, lighting the inside of the body, lasers, and medical equipment, from medical surgical overhead lighting, endoscopy, phototherapy. It doesn't matter. Everything in medicine is electrical in nature. Virtually everything, the equipment they use, and even the cauterized wounds. So electricity is so well understood by medicine. A psychiatrist is a doctor, and he or she has done their residency. They're specializing in psychiatry. Electricity is very well understood by medicine and the original equipment and manufacturers who build medical equipment. And psychiatry has studied, electroconvulsive therapy. But this is what Whitney Mills was up against. It's a cult who claims the cult has a simplistic device called an e-meter. It's an old circuit. And you have very expensive research. Any medical device has to go through FDA clinical trials to get approvals. And I worked on medical devices. Uh, I worked on medical device. I know how much understanding the specialists have and the doctors have. They understand. So they say because psychiatrists don't understand the laws of electricity or how it affects the body. Yes, they do. Scientology's understanding of the e-meter is there's a low-level electrical current that passes through the body and reads the spirit, reads areas of spiritual travail. In other words, their understanding is limited to what the e-meter does. You know, whereas the sheer amount of research to get an electrical device into medicine is it takes a lot of work, especially something when you're dealing with lasers or surgical instruments. So my point is that this is what Whitney was up against. And the CCHR webpage shows you why she was taken, you know, they're warned against pills. They're warned and warned and warned. So this is part of what I think should become evidence that there's this bias, this inherent bias. And I think if a jury saw this, that there's a bias against psychiatry. And I think that is part of it. I think that would be fair. And so this is just nothing but a nonstop attack. So when Whitney needed help, like Lisa McPherson, she didn't get the help she needed. So I want to show you something else. Let me remove that from stage. So the Pat Broker thing was interesting. So because she can't get psychiatric help, she asked for an end-of-life assist. Who else asked for an end-of-life assist? Well, L. Ron Hubbard asked Stephen Falf, Sarge, to build an e-meter that would kill him. L. Ron Hubbard experienced the same kind of breakdown and wanted to end his own life. And he asked Sarge to build him that e-meter. We know that from Larry Wright. I tried to interview Stephen Falf, but the late Sinar Parman, and Stephen Falf was willing to talk to me. And the late Sinar Parman stopped that from happening. Sinar didn't, you know, when he found out that Larry Wright had interviewed Stephen Falf about the e-meter, Sinar, who was an independent Scientologist, he'd left the church. He was a 5-star chef. He was incredible. He had cooked for L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige. He told a famous story about how Tom Cruise didn't pay him, how he stiffed him when he did all the cooking for Tom Cruise's wedding to Katie up there. They had a party up in Telluride. So, but I was so close to interviewing Stephen Falk because I wanted to ask him some additional questions that I didn't think Larry Wright asked him everything that could do. And that's no knock on Larry. So I'm more of an engineering type. So anyway, I just want to show you some of the other stuff while we're here, just sort of the entranced cultic thinking. And we know from, Tom Cruise saying that Scientologists are the experts on the mind, experts at getting people off drugs, etc. Here's a couple other things Scientology do, and it's by degree. So Scientology thinks it knows how to handle a severe psychiatric breakdown. If you go to Scientology websites, you'll see, and this goes to the frame of mind that they want to keep everything in house, and they're the only ones who know how to do things. This is assists for illness and injury from the Scientology handbook. We're looking at a Scientology website right now. So basically, Scientology shockingly has what's called an unconscious person assist. Now, me personally, and I think all of you, I think I can speak for all of you. When someone's unconscious, the first thing you do is dial 911. Well, first, no, you clear their airway. Okay. Are they bleeding? Is their airway? Are they breathing? Is their heart beating? Okay. You do the emergency stuff. Airway clear, heart beating, any obvious indication, knife wound, bullet. Well, I mean, you do a quick look at them, right? You do a triage. What if they swallow their tongue, you clear that. You do CPR. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. And then you call 911. We have an unconscious person. Don't move them. You don't know what happened. Did they fall? They have a heart attack, stroke. You don't know. You call 911. Scientology doesn't say call 911. What these cultists, and this is why they're called a cult, look at this sentence. And this is contextual. This is contextual to Whitney Mills taking her own life because she was denied psychiatric treatment. Scientology, and I'm going to make this bigger because I want you to see this. Scientology writes, a person who is unconscious, even someone who has been in a long continued coma, can be helped using a process called an unconscious person assist. With this assist, you can help to get the person into communication with you and his surroundings, and so bring them from unconsciousness back to life and livingness. It is an easy assist to learn to do. Really, Scientology? Someone who's been in a long-term coma, you can use an assist to bring them back? That's ridiculous. There's also a bring back to life assist, where when a person has died, you order them to get back into the body. You're supposed to, as a Scientologist, say, hey, get back in that body, get back into your body. So in Scientology, you have, as Pat Broker said, they have an actual level on how to die. But then they also have the technology of ordering you how to get back into your body. And then they have a technology, if you've been in a coma long term, or if you're unconscious, they can get you out of a state of unconsciousness or a long-term coma. They actually believe this. This is part of the lunacy. So yeah, it gets worse, Julie. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Janelle. That's what I was trying to remember. ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. You check that first. You call 911. Yeah, you sternum rub. You do that. You do what you can, but you don't leave. You don't do an assist when a person is unconscious. You don't like, okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to and look at these instructions. These are the actual instructions. Okay, instead of calling 911, you Scientology would have you take the person's hand gently in your hand and tell them, I am going to assist you to recover. And then you gently move the person's hand and press it against an object. And then you acknowledge the person. And then you just repeat this process, and then you continue. And when look at this. When the person has regained consciousness, you end up by saying, end of assist. So someone's been in a coma 7 years. The Scientologist can remarkably come in and have them touch a pillow or a bedspread or whatever, their feeding tube, and then they'll miraculously come back to consciousness. See, this is why this can be so dangerous, you know? Yeah, Joe, I'm glad you put this in, Joe Gerst. I was a first responder in a chemical plant that I worked at for 10 years. The few times I had to deal with a seriously injured person, I basically screamed at people to call 911 before I even arrived. Exactly. At the scene. Yeah, this was before cell phones. Exactly. So pretty sure that has never worked. Yeah, exactly. So, but there's more assists. There's another assist I wanted to show you, since we're talking about the context in which Whitney Mills wanted an end-of-life assist and wasn't helped that way. So we're going to share another assist. So we have the assist for an unconscious person. Another thing they have that I want to bring to your attention. This is another Scientology webpage. And we can see here, it's called Assist for Illness and Injuries. And they claim you can assist a person to recover more rapidly from an accident, illness, or upset. Well, how about if someone is wanting to take their own life? Shouldn't you get them the right kind of treatment? And they're going to teach you the Scientology principles, your relationship to your body as a spirit, skills you can use to help alleviate someone's pain and discomfort. Well, I mean, I'm saying if someone is wanting to take their own life, to alleviate that pain and discomfort, you would get them the proper psychiatric help they need, because it's a crisis state, and you need you need to dial 911 and say this person wants to end their life, and get them into crisis management. At that point, it's a crisis. But this is like what Scientology offers as alternatives. And Dr. Dank's diagnosis, according to the article, was that she had Lyme disease and an ovarian cyst. And he's in no way qualified to, was Dr. Dank told by the Scientology cave supervisor at Flag that she wanted to end her own life? What information, to be fair to Dr. Minkoff, what information was withheld to him? Was that information shared with him? We don't know. So there's a lot we don't know. Let's go back to the lawsuit for a minute, because it's oh, by the way, I did want to show you something. I'm going to show you another screen. If we talk a lot about Lisa McPherson, and there's a very interesting timeline that's oh, wait a minute, did I get it on screen? There's an interesting timeline of in the Tampa Bay Times. And okay, so this is a PDF. You can actually go to the Tampa Bay Times and get it, and it's called Events Leading to the Death of Scientologist Lisa McPherson. And this has the actual timeline beginning from what happens. So you have the actual documentation here, and the 17 days at Fort Harrison, Clearwater, that she took to die, over which she died, how much weight she lost, what happened. That's interesting. So the Tampa Bay Times has it. It's on other websites, but I just wanted to show you that Whitney took a more radical approach. She wasn't, and I'm glad the lawsuit was filed. Going back to the lawsuit, let me find it. See, is this it? Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. I'm going to stop sharing that one. I want to go back to the lawsuit, which, anyway, the lawsuit I'll have published, and the details in there are interesting. I thought I had it. Let me just take one more. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you one more, this thing here. In terms of evidence, it's indisputable. I mean, Ben Shaw has made some comments, but he's certainly not disputing that she was a member. Okay, I wanted to just get Kirsty Wachter's website. Oh man, I've got so many things. No, why can't I have it right here? Okay. Just give me a minute here. There's CCHR. Okay, here it is. I'm going to share this. This is for other content creators who want resources. Kirsty Wachter's website, The Truth About Scientology, and she terrific website. Terrific website. So this is Whitney Mills Scientology service completions. We're just going to go through as we approach the end of this podcast. But for other content creators, feel free to use any content I create. It's good that we share amongst ourselves. So Whitney Mills had an extensive career, and it's documented. And so she began back there in 2013, 2014. She goes cause resurgent student hat. The L rundown. The L's are expensive, hyper expensive, and then you can see her progressing. Solo auditor, OT preps, Purif, new OT1, OT2, OT3, OT4, 5, advanced solo auditor, new OT6, new OT7, and then new OT8. So you can see that she did spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, in the civil complaint for the wrongful death, this will all be evidentiary in nature. So it is indisputable. There's plenty of documentation, folders, things like that. And, I think that, my opinion, will Scientology fight this? Well, that's a really great question. I've been thinking about this. Will Scientology fight this lawsuit or will it settle? Oh, hello, Vanessa. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to compare notes with you on this, given your training. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm going to do a pro and con right now. The smart thing to do would be to settle it. But because David Miscavige because he's belligerent and wants to go to war, he may not want to settle. Because in settling, the only way he would do it was without admitting any blame. And you have a woman who unalived herself. And Scientology is right there. We're just past the Danny Masterson conviction. He may not want to settle. He may want to fight, and he may even want to bring in the contracts that Whitney did not want psychiatric help. Psychiatry is bad, and Whitney, the thing is, from what I've read in the lawsuit, when you have problems at Flag, being a Flag public's a big deal. When you get restricted and you're banned from the Flag land base, you're kicked off the base, as it's called. You can't get the treatment, and then they sort of the case supervisors, I understand, will give you, go see Dr. Minkoff, go do this course, go take these vitamins, whatever. So Whitney was kicked out of Flag land base. By the way, I want to interject: the criminal trial of David Gentili is going on in Brooklyn. It just concluded its first week. It opened last Monday. And I know that he was kicked out of Flag. He can't get Flag auditing. When you get in trouble, it's considered that it's an ultra elite. Flag public's an ultra elite status in Scientology. And if you get kicked off the base at Flag, that's pretty bad. And they send you down to Tampa org. So that's the lawsuit. And I'll have it up for everyone who wants to use the content. And it's available if you go to Pinellas County. You can download it yourself. I'm glad to put up the PDF. So a lawsuit, Scientology has no good options in this. And David Miscavige's, in my opinion, his worst tendencies are to always pick, instead of picking the least of the bad option, the least worst of the bad options, he always picks the worst of the worst options. And we certainly saw this play out with in the Lisa McPherson case, where something that could have been settled dragged on, and dragged on for years and cost a lot of money. Marty Rathbun admitted that he ordered documents destroyed, key documents destroyed in the last 2 days of Lisa's life. And so, will Scientology learn from its past? Probably not. So I haven't quite decided. We're going to have to watch and see what Scientology's answer is to this complaint, because they are required to answer within a statutory time limit. I don't know in Florida what it is, 30 or 60 days. You may be a lawyer there. So, oh yeah, here, yeah, no public criminal Scientologist Flag, but if it's not published in the public, that's okay. Yeah, as I've said, the only crime in Scientology is getting caught. That's it. So the lawsuit's worth reading. My condolences to Whitney Mills family. I'm glad they sued for wrongful death. I hope that a lot comes out of this. But it does draw attention to the fact that Scientology is rabidly anti-psychiatry, that Scientologists have to sign a contract whereby they give up their rights to psychiatric treatment. And even if they get on a 5150 or they need an emergency psychiatric lockup, they're denied that and Scientologists take them out. So it becomes very destructive and injurious. So if you're battling with mental health problems, the last place you want to be is Scientology. And if you're getting along fine in life, the last place you want to be is with the Church of Scientology. So at either end of the spectrum, the last place you want to be is the Church of Scientology. And this wrongful death suit is yet another indictment against Scientology being a very violent, abusive, anti-psychiatry, anti-life, anti-child, anti-everything cult. So any questions before we go? Because let me see the comments. So that's it, straightforward. We don't have a lot of details yet other than the complaint itself. And like I said, we'll just wait to see if Scientology answers it. So just wanted to bring you, what I was able to look at today. Like I said, the story is viral. I saw it in Daily Mail, UK, other sources. So I don't think this is going to go away easy. I think that more information will be forthcoming. There could be some leaks, but I think it's not through yet. So, yeah, anti-life, pro-death cult. It does seem that way. The physical body in Scientology is devalued as the meat body. They denigrate the body as a meat body. You use it for one life and then you drop it and you move on to the next life. A question I got today was very disturbing. And it's the question, has Scientology ever, I don't even know if I want to address it. I might say it for their channel in their time. Are you aware of any other cults which rely so heavily on contracts? No. In fact, I'm going to show you something. I'm just going to share one more screen because it's one of my most read articles. It's been read, about 700,000 times over the years. At least 700,000 last I checked. I want to show you one thing, one column I do, Janelle. I have evergreen posts on my blog, and those get read over and over and over and over. This, along with one other one, gets read over and over and over. And I think today I had a bump in it. And this is it. How Scientology, and I'll post the link in the show notes, how Scientology ensnares the unsuspecting in a series of binding contracts. And this gives the 4 contracts. There's links so you can download them in PDF form. And so as an IES member, remember, you can't be a member of the church. You join the IES, which is administered by the IASA. And so these are the 4 contracts. You have to watch the film, orientation. You have to sign a contract agreeing that Scientology is religion. Then you agree to obey. You agree to bind yourself, because in America, consent belongs to the believer, not to the church. So you give your consent to be governed. That's why when you resign, you have to withdraw your consent. So religious services agreement, that's the binding arbitration. That contains the binding arbitration clause, which has been the cause of so much grief. And yeah, exactly. Contracts signed under duress are not valid, but that you're going to have to make a case for that, because this is why, and going back to Janelle's question, so you sign these contracts and you sign away all your rights to sue the church. You agree to go to binding arbitration. They have non-disclosure agreements. Okay, now agreement regarding religious confidential files. You agree that you can't see your PC folders, that the church owns them in perpetuity. You, your family, heirs, estates, assigns will never see them. The church owns all your folders. That means they own all your secrets in perpetuity. All your PC folders belong to the church. You don't get to see them. You never will. Now, Laura DiCrescenzo, or Dykman, was able to get them by showing that over 100 people had access to your file. And then the contract I showed in this one is assistance in general, agreement and general assistance regarding spiritual assistance, kind of a mouthful. But this is where you agree that they can take you out of a psychiatric facility and lock you up in their introspection rundown. So like I said, this is one of my evergreen columns that gets read a lot. So right now, if you're interested and you want to create additional content about the story, feel free to come here, download these contracts. I think the more people know just how these 4 basic contracts, another contract I have up that's interesting, that a lot of people are not aware of, OTs who Scientology OTs sign a contract that you pay, if you talk about the OT levels, you pay, I believe it's $100,000 per breach. Let me just check. Yeah, you pay $100,000. So to go to your question, yeah, let's look at this, Janelle. Share one more thing while we're there, because a lot of people don't know this. So as long as we are talking, so I'm going to end off pretty quick here. This is another one of my ones that gets read. Xenu who? Scientology fines OTs $100,000 if they talk about Xenu or body thetans. And I bet you didn't know this, but it says when you do your OT levels and you learn about Xenu and the BTs, this is why they don't talk about it. It says in yellow, parishioner understands and acknowledges that the confidentiality of the advanced technology is to be maintained forever by FSO and by all other churches of Scientology and affiliated organizations and by their respective parishioners and staff, including parishioner. Now, the next part in yellow. Further, parishioner agrees to pay Flag Service Organization and its licensor the total amount of $100,000 for each such breach by parishioner. So if you talk about the OT levels, each time you talk about them, that's $100,000. That's why they won't talk about them. That's why they just will laugh or not talk about it or disappear, because it's a $100,000 penalty, and they've signed that contract. $100,000 for each breach. The contract's right there on my blog. Look at that thing. All those recitals. You're going through so much stuff. You can't disclose anything about this in any form or medium to any person or organization. Shall not entitle the parishioner to any right to possess except during period, blah, 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 blah. If you read this OT contract, I mean, this is heavy duty. So in addition to her problems, Whitney Mills would have signed this OT contract. She would have been pressured as an OT8 to donate to the IES for her statuses. So, Janelle, to answer your question, I don't know of any other organization that is so contract dependent. I've always said that Scientology is an unholy fusion of First Amendment religious rights and American secular contract law. In other words, it's a perfect hell. It's a perfect hell, and it's part of what I talk about, the concentric rings of defense: First Amendment religious rights, American secular contract law, fair game, disconnection, and so on they go. So Scientology has these concentric rings of defense where they'll destroy your family, fair game you, try to get you fired from your job, try to get you arrested, make you sign contracts so that you can't sue them. I mean, it just goes on and on. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But that's why we need the media. That's why we need SPTV. That's why we need anyone else to expose this beast and bring it down, and with the ultimate goal of having the IRS revoke Scientology's tax exemption, and that we can't say enough on all channels, across all platforms. So take this comment and then we're going to jump off, Janelle. These almost seem like adhesion contracts. One can't access the church without signing the ordered contract. There's no room to negotiate the terms. It's disturbing, to put it mildly. You are correct, Janelle. And that's why I wanted to make that point at the beginning. You're an IES member only, and that's unincorporated. So you have to join the IES to do services in Scientology. So you join the IES, and then you have to sign the 4 contracts before you can do services in the Church of Scientology. And that's the way it works. So you give up all your rights, and you're not even a member of the church. You're a member of an incorporated religious association. So everything breaks down. They want it to make, and like I said, the Sea Org doesn't legally exist. I established that years ago. And so nothing is ever as it seems except the contracts. It always comes down to what contracts. So that's why I'm going to be interesting to see if Scientology actually tries to fight this lawsuit by Whitney Mills' estate and tries to assert that she signed the contract agreeing to the introspection rundown. That's a very dangerous position to be in for the church legally. What are they suing for? Oh, wrongful death. Scientology is a parasitic worm that colonizes civil society. I agree. It is parasitic. It'll take all the government money it can get. It'll take every money it can get. I don't know if parasitic's a strong enough word, Adam. I really don't know. I see Scientology as being a brutal cult that takes everything all the way down to the bone marrow. And the end phenomena of Scientology is this: nothing left of a person. That's the true end phenomena of Scientology: nothing left of a person. They take it all down, including the bone marrow, and there's nothing left of a person. And with that, we'll end it. I thank you so much for visiting, and just it's nice to be able to talk about this. And it is just so shocking that this young woman would take her life this way when it could have been prevented. But that's the story of Scientology. They, L. Ron Hubbard once said that he would rather have Scientologists dead than incapable. And that's pretty chilling when you think about that. So I'll leave you with that, and see you again next time. Thank you for watching.